greetings, it's Ian from RTO here. Welcome to the Sophomore Dome. 2 albums go in, who will come out victorious. So today we have got 2 bands from the 70s. One being Mott the Hoople and the other being Roxy Music. Now the band that releases first goes first. In this case it is Mott the Hoople. Formed in Hereford in 1966. Originally called the Doc Thomas Group, but changed their name when they signed to Island Records. They didn't have a good start, but they got a song from a certain David Bowie, and the rest is history. So their second album was released in September of 1970, and it is called Mad Shadows. Playing on here, of course, is Ian Hunter on vocals, guitars Mick Ralphs, Pete Watts on the bass, Dale Griffin on the drums, Verdon Allen on the organ. Additional personnel, we've got Guy Stevens on psychic piano and spiritual percussion. So, the first track is called Thunderbuck Ram. I think this is one of the best tracks on the album. I love the guitar work from Mick. Some great drumming on here as well from Dale. It's a good vocal from Ian as ever. It's a pretty solid track on the album. The next one, No Wheels to Ride, is my favourite track on this album. And I think it's one of the best tracks by Mott the Hoople. Which got an amazing guitar solo from Mick Ralphs as well. Pretty solid track. You Are One of Us, not too bad. I don't mind this track, but it hasn't got the same punch as the first two, but it's still good. Walking with a Mountain. There's a bit at the beginning that sounds a little bit like Jumping Jack Flash by the Stones. It's got a great bass line on this one has from Pete. It's pretty solid. I like that. Can I Feel It? 7 minutes long, a little bit too long. I think it sort of loses itself somewhere. It's a good structured song, but a little bit long. Threads of Iron. It gets lost a bit in the middle. It's a shame because it's a really good track. It has got some nice guitar work and a vocal from Ian, but it seems to just goes off into another tangent, but it does come back eventually. When My Mind's Gone, it's okay. Again, sometimes with these longer tracks, they did tend in the early days to meander and go off point, but yeah, it came back on point towards the end, and that was the last track. It's not as good as their debut album. I think they lost a little bit of focus here. I don't know what happened. It has got some excellent tracks on it, though. But this is at the time when they were thinking about jacking it all in as well. So, yeah, it's a very confused album, this one. But let's see what the critics thought of it. There's not been much written about it. There's been mixed reviews. Some of it's praised it for its dark, heavy, emotional vibe, while others found it less appealing compared to their debut, which I think most people do. It's considered to be a cold hit by some corners and a good damned masterpiece by others. Stephen Thomas Erlewine of AllMusic gave it 2 stars. And he said, if Mott the Hoople's debut album cheerfully careered all over the place, their second, Mad Shadows, is one direction, downward and into dark murk. There are some ratings. AllMusic, as I said, gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. Rolling Stone gave it a favourable, and it did get to number 48 in the album charts. So let's have a look at the nuts and bolts of Mad Shadows. Okay, song quality. Yeah, there's some good songs on here, but as I said, some of them meander a little bit. and go off onto some other little tangent. So I'm going to give that a 3 out of 5. Production wise, it's very good. It's a well produced album. So I'll give that a 4 out of 5. Reception, mixed really. Just scraped into the top 50 of the album chart. So I shall give that a 3. Cover design. It's totally bizarre, isn't it? It's all in black and white. And I'll get the thing for Mad Shadows, but it's not that brilliant, so I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. So for Mad Shadows by Mott the Hoople will give us a grand total of 12 out of 20. Okay, up against them, of course, is Roxy Music, formed in 1970s, and formed in the year that Mott the Hoople released Mad Shadows. There's not much else you can say about Roxy Music. They're a great band. So their second album was released on the 23rd of March 1973, and of course it is For Your Pleasure. Playing on here is Brian Ferry on vocals and keyboards, Brian Eno synthesizer, Andy McKay on the oboe and saxophone, Phil Manzera on the guitars, Paul Thompson on drums, and guest artist was John Porter on the bass. This opens up with the classic Do the Strand. Absolutely brilliant track. It was never released in the UK as a single, but it's one of their most popular tracks. Absolute classic. Beauty Queen comes next. Now I love this. Phil's guitar work is brilliant. You got that great drumming from Paul, and of course the wonderful vocal from Brian. Strictly Confidential. The production on this is cool. I love the keyboards and all this. Brian Eno just doing what Brian Eno did. Really good track. Editions of You, another great track. One of my favourites from this album, and I love the little bit of saxophone from Andy. Absolutely brilliant. In Every Dream Home, A Heartache. A weird track. Very groundbreaking, the sounds that Brian Eno created. Then we get The Bogus Man. It's the longest track on here at 9 minutes 22. It's bizarre as well. Sometimes the saxophone's a little bit off key. It's okay, but I wouldn't say it's one of my favourites. A little bit too long, I think. Grey Lagoons, another of those weird tracks. I love John Porter's bass line and Phil's drumming. Very solid. Some nice guitar bits there from Phil. Title track, another of those experimental tracks. The drumming is excellent on it. It's got that glam, sort of a cross between glam rock and prog rock. Really strong track in the album. Now, I've always thought this is an experimental album. They pushed the boundaries out with this, with that glam music and avant-garde. It's got some absolute classics on it as well, and I do like this album very, very much. Okay, let's have a look and see what the critics thought of it. Now, the first one is done by the legendary Mr. Paul Gambaccini, who wrote for Rolling Stone, expressed mixed feelings, calling the album remarkably inaccessible and deeming the better half of it to be either above or beneath us or any other plane altogether. He did praise Do the Strand and In Every Dream Is a Heartache and the saxophone of Editions of You. Music biographer David Buckley noted that the contrary negative reviews mostly saw the album as contrivance to cash in on glam rock, and Roxy Music as regarded musicians whose limited techniques restricted them from realising their ideas. So we had a mixed bag. So let's have a look at the rating. So AllMusic gave it a 5 out of 5. Christel's Record Guide gave it a B. Encyclopedia of Popular Music gave it a 4. NME gave it a 9 out of 10. Pitchfork in 2010 gave it 10 out of 10, and in 2009 they gave it a 9.5. Q gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Rolling Stone Album Guide gave it a 5 out of 5. Select a 5 out of 5. And Spin Alternative Record Guide 6 out of 10. The album was more commercially successful than their debut, and it peaked at number 4 in the album charts. So let's have a look at the nuts and bolts of For Your Pleasure. Song quality, some excellent songs on here. They did push the boundaries. It's got some classics, so I'm going to give that a 4. Production, very good production on this. Groundbreaking production, so I'm going to give that a 4. Reception went down well. Top 10 album. A lot of people, some critics didn't like it, some praised it, so I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5. Album design. I think they could have done better. You know, you got a panther on it and a girl, but the background is the wrong colour, because you cannot pick out the main thing of it. So for that, but it says Roxy Music, but I'm only going to give that a 3 out of 5. For Your Pleasure by Roxy Music gives us a total of 15 out of 20. Okay, it's a points win for Roxy Music. Okay, I do like both albums, but I always say that Mad Shadows is a little bit confusing. They really have they've lost their direction a bit. On the other hand, Roxy Music was experimenting, pushing boundaries, and trying to craft their sound, which they started on this album. So I'm going to give this one today to Roxy Music for that reason. Both good albums, but I think Roxy Music just pips it today for me. Okay, it's now up to you to vote. If you go to posts, you'll see the vote there, and it'll be in the live stream tonight. So that's a really tough one. It was a really tough one for me. Okay, up next is Pick a Mix, and this week we're in the camera's view, and we're going to look at the Rolling Stones' Shine a Light, which I actually saw at the cinema at an IMAX cinema in Chicago. So that's what we're doing next. So join me for that. Bye for now.